Hey, thanks for tuning in. My name's Jamie. This video consists of three main sections. In the first, I'm going to be talking about the effects of totalitarian forces against humans and the prices we pay because of them. In the second, I'm going to be describing what my experience was like as a young boy being raised inside a very strict totalitarian regime. And in the third section, I'm going to try to make sense of all the previous dialogue and make a whole bunch of juicy conclusions regarding human psychology and human behavior. Let's go. See what happens. Peace. I woke up today and I said to myself, I am the beauty I seek, which basically means I am the product of my intentions. I praise myself every day at least once. I do this as an act of self-respect. Can you think of any higher resource in the whole universe? No way, self-respect is the ultimate prize, ever. Because let me tell you, if you don't like who you are, then you will feel unworthy of attaining life's bounties. And you miss out on a lot of good shit. The thing that most of us forget to do as we get older is to ask the question, who am I? If your beliefs about who you are not in alignment with who you really are, you will suffer inevitably. Yet eventually, across many eons, that suffering will teach you how to attain the thing you most desire, yourself in your most desired form. What is the greatest achievement in the universe? A personality. You, in your most powerful, masterful, exciting form, is that what you seek? External rewards are good, but those things will only distract you for so long. At some point, you must return to yourself, and so you really need things which enable you to like and respect yourself more than anything. So why is self-respect so hard to attain for most people? I think Friedrich Nietzsche coins it perfectly. Nihilism. This is the belief that 1, there is no God, and therefore 2, there is no meaning and no moral structure to life, and therefore 3, no being has any essential worth. If you believe this, you seriously need to reconsider your belief system, because nihilism is the nemesis of civilization and everything good that emerges from civilized culture. What we're witnessing here is a spiritual crisis on a gigantic level. Most humans have been subverted already beyond redemption. There's no way back for a lot of people because they're so deeply invested in their corrupt ideologies and wicked practices. The main problem with nihilism is that it turns people into complete wankers who live carelessly at the expense of others. My question is, why do they keep breeding? They have no fucking idea how to raise useful members of society. They think that raising children is like training circus animals. They think that totalitarianism is the way to promote intelligence in young people. I should know because I've been a victim of it. I was a very assertive kid, and so when my mum used to make orders on my behavior, it was natural for me to question the logic behind her ideas of correct moral and social practices. I just knew from an early age that my own conscience was the authority of my being. And because of this factor within my personality, she used to hit the fucking roof. Let me tell you, on her worst days, she'd point her finger in my face whilst yelling abusive shit at my being. You could see the hatred in her eyes as she did this, and then she'd devise a punishment as a result of my innocent inquisition. I was actually punished for my displays of intelligence because it threatened her self-esteem. And I had to live with this dickhead for more than 20 years. That's a long time to deal with a person of this nature, trust me. My conclusion is this. Anyone who tells you never to question their source of power or intellect is an imposter who is trying to subordinate you. This is evidently a dilemma for religious people whose masters instruct them never to critically assess the sacred text. In other words, they are told, it is wrong to apply a reliability test to the most reliable data source. So they're trying to tell you that the data source is bulletproof, and yet you're not allowed to fire bullets at it. I mean, come on, how dumb do you have to be not to detect the blatant trickery in that type of proposition? I was raised by 2 tyrants, right? So I know all their tricks. I'm gonna show you how this type of personality works and give you a few tips on how to deal with these motherfuckers. Firstly, if you're a child or teenager with a tyrannical superior, then this video is absolutely aimed at you. Foremost, I totally relate to your position, child, and I'm going to provide to you some protective utility in terms of practical knowledge. For anyone else, this information is intended to inform and expand your field of cultural awareness for intellectual purposes. Before we continue along this special voyage, I'm going to show you a quick song I wrote called Don't Love Till the Sun Dies. It means learn to let go and free yourself from that which no longer serves you. Here it is. Enjoy.
Going at this time to make our famous go expire. Talking secret rhymes to measure passions with this fire. When we go a line, abuse your heart to my desire. To pass the sacred line, I guess I travel down this wire.
Letting go is the hardest lesson in life. Letting go because in truth there's nothing to hold on to apart from your morals, your lessons, and your connection to divine source. Peace. There's this popular theory going around planet Earth which proposes that in order to become spiritually complete involves this search for a sexual partner with whom to create a family. I'm so sorry to tell you this, but all your ideas about raising a family come from witchcraft. And by witchcraft, I mean deception on a mass scale. This place ain't fit for raising kids, are you kidding me? This place is corrupt to the bone and is not worthy of our children's needs. Look at humanity and face the truth, we suck. And to be frank with you, if you created a child here in this world, you were selfish to do that. I mean, was the original intention not the orgasm? Or did you honestly tell yourself that you were doing humanity some huge favor because you had high hopes of raising a successful candidate? Listen, I don't care. Anyone who supports humanity is a fraud because humanity itself is a fraud. Most people are slavish wankers who serve false idols and false agendas which leads to global chaos and a one-world government who pump evil chemicals into babies. Truth. And ask yourselves honestly, what have you actually created for your children? Do you think that just by owning expensive objects like houses and cars qualifies you as a parent? And do you think that by punishing your children in order so that they follow your own perverse social customs results in decent civilians? And do you honestly believe that you understand the meaning of love just because you were taught to recite 3 meaningless words to each other? You're joking, right? Peace. Welcome to the minefield, guys. Mines exist everywhere. Treasure chests exist too, but you'll only ever reach them if you learn to successfully evade the mines. There's this theory that floats around these days suggesting that most of our DNA is junk material. That's bullshit. That's your secret potential, waiting to be unlocked. Your mind is filled, and I mean filled to the millions, with virtual reward systems you can discover with your inquisitive faculties in order to unleash new skills, knowledge, and powers which can truly enhance your reality. Your own mind is your greatest teacher, never forget that. The education system we have in place is a complete joke. The fact that casinos exist is proof of this because, think about it, we're taught level 50 in the abstract, and yet level 1 algebra in the practical is legitimately unheard of. If people were genuinely taught correct logic, gamblers would not exist because to gamble on a game where the odds are statistically waged against you is an eternally losing concept, which is completely counterintuitive, supposing your goal is to make money. In mathematical terms, it would look like 0.49 or less. If your odds were 0.51 or above, that is an eternally winning concept, and so that kind of betting would be completely intuitive. But at 49% or below success rate, That is a system that will hurl you up really high, only to heighten the impact of when it slams you to the floor with its next fatalistic, indefensible attack, because it's designed to do that. But think about it this way. The moment you win that jackpot, 100% of it is owed to your last critical loss. That is eternally true. Your jackpots pay for past losses. In fact, they're so indebted to your past that they signify essentially empty victories, because the victories in this game signify the essence of a perfect mirage. There is no victory in gambling, ever. Get used to it. Peace. My mum and stepdad gambled with me big time. They spent their lives placing bets on my failure, and they secured that outcome for a while. But I got smart at around 28 years old when I started studying philosophy and language, and I became a philosopher. My work is made of quality content and spans thousands of pages. I developed a video game when I was 27, which sold over 10,000 copies, and my work became an iconic masterpiece series. I wrote over 300 songs in my life, and 4 of them I professionally produced this year. And my biggest achievement? I proceeded from an abusive childhood into a magnanimous being by virtue of my own intention and unwillingness to accept improper moral standards by people who claimed to be my superiors when in truth they were just insecure wankers who lacked a concept of God and true self-governance. Let me tell you the first sign and cue to these tyrannical hellions. Firstly, they worship false idols. My mum bats for Martin Luther King Jr., one of the most delusional men ever to exist. He actually fed people the illusion of a religiously implied existential freedom that had the power to unlock the doors of paradise for the entire human race. That's evidently false, because humans are still fighting and paradise implies peace. Not only this, but if you listen to this guy's speeches, he genuinely loved his poetry. But that's as far as his intellect seems to go, because yes, his words are euphonic to the ear, but to the soul they are lost wishes of impossible desire. Let's face it, the guy was a total fraud and probably the cutting definition of a fanatical twat, driven by a self-inflicted vanity which blinded him to his own inadequacy as a speaker of fact. Listen, I'm a being from the 5th dimension. I don't do business with false businessmen who pretend to know shit they know nothing about, like doctors and lawyers. Most doctors don't even spend their free time working on cures. Get fucked. Most lawyers don't even spend their free time investigating federal corruption. Get out of my face, cunt. You're a blacksmith in disguise from the fucking Stone Age. But hell, Johnny, you know my love to you is true. I'd never lie to you, Johnny. I love you with all the purity of my heart, because you're the only man for me, baby. Just keep feeding me those diamonds and I won't change my mind. Got it? Good. What days do you go to work again, sweetness? Moving on, the second sign of a tyrant is their tendency to pull out the victim card as a means of making their own victims feel guilty of potentially innocent remarks, which acts as an excuse for the tyrant to punish accordingly. Any attempt to resolve the situation peacefully will be shot down by the tyrant, because in the tyrant's mind, their own thoughts and emotions are never wrong. The third sign is that they like to set certain restrictions on their victims' use of language and self-expression. This is effectively a disarming tactic which aims to cripple the victim's natural order of self-defense. I remember when I was just a young teenager at school, constantly ridiculed because my mum actually trained me never to defend myself when attacked. She also taught me never to use swear words, and I found out why during my late 20s when I realized how much power they can harness, which can be utilized not only for self-defense but also for intellectual purposes when stressing a point. I was discouraged from applying reason because reason itself was treated as a sign of disrespect towards superior powers. By the time I was 15, I was definitely the most bullied person in school because I wasn't able to talk back to people due to my wicked upbringing. And still to this day, I don't know how I survived that maelstrom. My two sisters and I were subjected to severe mental abuse by these wicked overlords, including brainwashing, denigration, vilification, silencing, humiliation, vicious verbal attacks and insults, master-slave programming routines, disorderly social practices, fatalistic threats, and blackmail. I was so scared to speak out back then because I was told by my stepdad that if I was to tell anyone about the violence, he'd break my spine to paralyze me and chuck me in a wheelchair for the rest of my days. Nice guy, eh? My mum just stood by and let it happen because she liked money too much, I guess. This is the first time, by the way, I've ever spoken about my childhood. For many years, I figured to myself that people wouldn't believe me because my mum is a very good liar. This is the fourth sign of a true tyrant, by the way. They live a dual life. They try to maintain a passively professional exterior among civilized crowds who they choose to affiliate with for two main reasons. Firstly, they seek to build moral reputations, since they naturally prepare for their victim's eventual counterattack, like this one. And secondly, here is the fifth sign. They require social validation in order to feel good about themselves. The fact of my sanity right now is a miracle, and I will postulate this as evidence for God. The fact of my character is also a miracle and further evidence for God, because everything good about me and everything I am was not taught to me. In fact, I was trained for failure. But my nature disagreed with my nurture and turned me into a successful human being. The word success to me simply means high functioning and natural. It has nothing to do with how much money you've made. Because, listen, my mum lives in a dazzling palace and she owns 2 lavish jeeps. But none of her children speak to her and she's depressed as fuck. I'm a crack addict now, by the way, and frankly I don't care for your opinion because I'm a victim of PTSD due to my childhood and I had to find my own resolve. My mum calls me a loser because I smoke a minor amount of crack each week, and because for the first time in my life I don't have a job right now, even though I've been working and studying all my life, as well as producing exquisite articles of music, philosophy and poetic literature in the thousands. Peace. In my opinion, the actual losers on this planet are the nihilists who have lost their dignities and their morals. People who slut around are absolutely destined for hell. A rampant sex life is cultish and moronic. Men intuitively know this because their danger senses are fine-tuned. This would explain why most men feel repulsed by slutty women. It's because they know that sluts don't make good mothers most of the time, and they feel empathy towards the unborn child whose fate relies upon the critical choices of the mother. And if she's a neurotic sexist like my mom, then there's a chance she'll aim all her total anger attributed towards men at her male child, who needs to be critically berated and punished for the crime of displaying any sign of masculine characteristics. And so, the young boy becomes like a sacrificial target simply for following the instructions of his genes. Just as an example, when I was a kid, I was very smart and assertive, and so I relied on the authority of reason in order to accept instructions from people who claimed superiority over me. And due to my displays of assertiveness, which I believe represents my innate intelligence, my mum scolded me every time because she took insult from any critical question or fusion of ideas that seemed to challenge the validity of her own opinions or self-elected dictatorship. She actually believes still to this day that she's faultless in both knowledge and action. And so you can't reason with her about anything because she's completely delusional. She also believed that her title as my mum warranted her complete subordination over my mind. And because I refused to become subservient to her, and because I resisted her attempts to defile my masculinity, she hated me. Hated me! I was just a disposable corpse in her eyes, good for one thing: expelling hatred on, pure hatred. Peace. So listen here, young chieftain, I'm telling you the secrets for free. Because secretly I do love you, and I don't even know you. I'm sending positive intentions towards you already. I'm back for your spiritual growth. I'm back for your sensitivity. I'm back for your ascension in this life and the following universe. Tip number 1. Get a notepad and keep a logbook on those motherfuckers. Study them like a scientist. Build counter tactics, a defense plan, an escape route, a log of precise calculations, and start experimenting on them and look for inconsistencies. Tip number 2. Don't let them take swear words away from you. This is your strongest verbal defense mechanism. Use your ammunition wisely. Tip number 3. Live by the opposite laws which they live by. Align yourself with the laws of peace. Correct your stature within your own virtues. Live by elegant command. Tip number 4. Let go of the most manipulative device you were ever taught. Love. Because there's something greater than love, my friends. It's called freedom, which operates on an entirely different level. Actual freedom refers to a sophisticated state of mind that allows you to connect to the world in a sincere and meaningful way without causing harm to yourself or others. By acting in accordance with the laws of freedom, you release yourself from despair, which is actually the result of guilt, since we've been taught the wrong ways. Love, as we're taught, means dependency, which means slavery. It's all based on this idea that there exists this magical resource we might refer to as love energy that can float through the air from one person's eyes into another person's eyes as a means of increasing both their self-esteem and their will to live. Why is this even possible? Because we don't love ourselves. And the reason for this is because we've been tricked into believing that we live in a godless universe. How can we love ourselves if we envision our existence as a complete lie, devoid of meaning and headed towards nowhere? The future looks grim from a certain perspective because we're all headed for the grave. But at least with spirituality comes the awareness that death is not the end. And so, perhaps there exists kind of a spiritual knowledge that can free us from this sickening dependency known as love. Maybe I'm about to tell you. Have you ever noticed that when you fall in love, you feel yourself being drained by this weirdly addictive sense of sadness? That feeling signifies your descent into slavery and spiritual decay. Sex is a false pleasure, you see. It's a trap. Its purpose is to lock human slaves into perpetual cycles of abuse, which they cannot easily escape since they become sex addicts. We live for dying dreams, my friends. You cannot replace God with a sexual partner or a family. You need God in order to sustain the fire that burns inside your soul. I'm not talking about the fictitious God from folklore. Hell no, I'm talking about the rebellious motherfucker with a cool personality and a wicked sense of humor. Ditch your old definitions of God. For in the words of KRS-One, God is the greatest human invention in human history. Repeat, God is the greatest human invention in human history. Priest, God bless to a brother found. Peace. Concept. Arise. Vision. Maximality. Origin. Birth. Rhythm. Blessed. See you around.